Hey, are you guys seeing this? The Minnesota Timberwolves are the number one seed in the Western Conference, and they are undefeated at home this season, 7-0 with an 11-3 overall record. And you're saying to yourself, can I buy in to this Timberwolves team? Are they for real? Because I remember in the 2017-2018 season when we were for real. And then General Soreness, Jimmy Butler, imploded our entire franchise. Or I remember when the Wolves were legit in 2019. Andrew Wiggins went bananas, and I bought an Andrew Wiggins sweatshirt. And by the end of that season, we had traded him. And we finished the season with 19 wins. Well, not only is this different, but this is really different. And in this video, I'm going to break down the Wolves' success into 3 categories and why it is sustainable. So basically, I'm going to explain to you why if you haven't already bought in, you should. Number 1, chemistry. The big question going into last season was, can Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert coexist on the same court? And unfortunately, we didn't get our answer last season. Due to injury, we barely saw Karl and Rudy on the court at the same time. Early last season, Rudy was an offensive disaster. He failed to pair well with Anthony Edwards or D'Angelo Russell or any other ball handler other than Kyle Anderson. And for those of you paying attention, late last season, you are well aware that after we acquired Mike Conley, all of that started to change. Mike Conley, who formerly played with Rudy in Utah, was very effective at reestablishing his chemistry with Rudy. And he did a good job of folding Rudy into the offense. But everything wasn't rainbow and sunshines. There was still a lot of work to do. And boy, have we gotten that this season. Now, I'm not saying Rudy's going to lead the league in scoring, but have you seen the work that Karl's doing with Rudy out there? If you've been watching these Wolves games consistently, then you know that a Karl to Rudy alley-oop is happening at least once a game. And it's not just Karl. Rudy's been able to effectively pair and pick and rolls with Mike Conley and Ant, and he's done a good job cleaning up around the rim. But folding Rudy into the offense isn't the only thing I have to say about chemistry. The leadership we've seen from several members of this squad has been tremendous. A casual fan might not recognize the importance of Kyle Anderson, but for the sickos out there, we know just how critical Kyle Anderson has been to this team as a locker room leader. So it's not just Kyle, it's also Mike Conley, bringing veteran leadership. It's Anthony Edwards, bringing that dog mentality. And it's also Chris Finch. I feel like the Wolves have established a very healthy dynamic of leadership. Karl-Anthony Towns has long been criticized for what people have perceived as a lack of leadership. But with the chemistry we've built now, Karl can be a leader on the court while not having so much pressure to be the franchise leader. And that's the type of pressure he's had for so long that it doesn't feel like it ever really came together. The building of this locker room from a chemistry standpoint has been tremendous. We've got leadership guys, we've got star guys, and we have got hustle guys. And that brings me right into number 2, defense. Defense goes hand in hand with team chemistry, but I really want to zero in on defense as a reason we've been so successful this season. The Wolves have made defense their identity this season. In media availability, it is something you hear echoed up and down the roster. The Wolves have the number 1 defensive rating in the league so far. And we're not just entirely dependent on Rudy Gobert holding down the post. Yes, Rudy has been absolutely phenomenal out there. But what makes this Minnesota defense potentially better than any of the Utah Jazz defenses you saw anchored by Rudy is that he is surrounded with support from the perimeter. If you put a team with stinky perimeter defenders and Rudy in the post, you're going to end up with a decent defensive rating because Rudy is so effective as a deterrent at the rim. But this Wolves team is way beyond that. Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards are both all-world perimeter defenders. Jaden, in particular, I'm not just talking a really good defensive wing. I'm talking potentially the best defensive wing in the NBA. And Anthony Edwards is always going to get more credit for his offensive firing power, which, trust me, we're going to talk about that later in this video. But Anthony Edwards is an elite two-way player. Now, pair that with the defensive contributions of savvy veteran Mike Conley or the defensive hustle of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and we've got a really good collection of perimeter defenders. And what has long been the elephant in the room of the Timberwolves defense, Karl-Anthony Towns, he's putting together the best defensive stretch of his career. I'm not going to tell you Cat's going to be picked for an all-defensive team this year, but what has long been a headache, scratch that, a migraine for Wolves fans, has been that Karl historically has been a defensive liability. Now, trust me, if Rudy goes out for an extended period of time and we have to pivot our defense off of Karl, it's not going to be as good. Don't get me wrong. But this defense, as currently constructed, has Karl-Anthony Towns fitting effectively as a member of an elite defense. Karl-Anthony Towns, elite defense. How refreshing is that, Wolves fans? All right, and we'll move into number 3. You knew we were going to talk about it. It is Anthony Edwards. I mean, come on. Anthony Edwards is that guy. It's hard not to be a prisoner of the moment and speak hyperbolically at times like this, but the potential of Anthony Edwards feels absolutely limitless. Edwards is absolutely elite at finding his own shot. He is a threat anywhere from a deep step back three to an absolutely monster jam. And he's a willing passer, an effective isolation scorer, and his ability to take over a game at any given stretch, especially in the clutch, it's elite. And as I mentioned earlier, he's also an elite defender. He's an elite two-way player. And if the Wolves stay as highly ranked as they are, it is not hard to see Anthony Edwards ending up somewhere in the MVP conversation. And I'm not talking about next year or 2 years from now or the old Timberwolves promises of the past where in a couple years it's going to come together. I'm talking right now. He's getting us 26, 5, 5, and 1.5 on the number 1 team in the West with the number 1 defense in the league. But with Ant, it's not just about who he is on the court, which is obviously a phenomenal player. Anthony Edwards might be as amazing on the court as he is off of it. Go and track down any post-game interview of a game where Anthony Edwards absolutely detonated and put up 40 plus, and I guarantee you in that interview he tells you the reason the Wolves won that game is because of Jaden McDaniels or Cat or Rudy or Bite or Nas, right? When the dialogue surrounding Karl-Anthony Towns was at an all-time negative, right? Even early this season there was so much negative discussion surrounding Cat. You will find Ant on Instagram or in a post-game interview talking about how elite Karl is and how special he is. Find clips from last year or the year before when the Wolves underperformed. And I guarantee you Anthony Edwards is out there saying, nah guys, this loss is on me. It's not because of the coaches. It's not because of player X or Y. I have to play better. Anthony Edwards has been made into a media darling because of how he conducts himself and how funny it is, right? But when you look past the humor of it and you dissect it in all of its unconventional ways, he is a textbook leader. Wins are on his team. Losses are on him. His teammates get unconditional support from their star player at all times. Anthony Edwards is obviously an elite basketball player, but maybe just as importantly, he's an elite teammate. Anthony Edwards is that dude. And he's leading the Wolves right now to the best season they've had since 2004. So you ask yourself, is this sustainable? Are these Wolves for real? Well, I can't tell you if we're going to be the 1 seed when the regular season wraps up. And I can't tell you if Ant's going to be the MVP or if Rudy's going to be the DPOY or if we're going to be the number 1 team in the world at the end of the season. But what I can tell you is this team is legit. This success is sustainable. So go buy your Anthony Edwards jerseys, go buy your Wolves tickets, and get your ass to the Target Center or whatever stadium the Wolves are coming to. Because trust me when I say this, you're not going to want to miss this thing. Stay lit. Thanks for watching.